Hey everyone, welcome back to Make Music. I'm with my friend Colton Reed here. He's from the band Buried Above, and we have been tracking demo stuff for our band Sight Received, and he just built his home studio here, so he's in the same situation a lot of you guys are. He's built an amazing studio, he knows what he's doing, so he's going to give you guys 3 tips to building an amazing home studio that works for you and works for your workflow. So what would you say would be tip number 1 when you were constructing this?
So tip number 1 is whenever you have a room that you envision having a music studio in, you want to try to make sure you know where everything is going to go and what you would need to treat where. So for example, in this room, I have the door that's right behind this camera that you can't see. And then it opens up into this wall that has a closet on it. And then onto the offside here, it's just a blank wall. This wall has going to be the main production desk. And then off to the side over there, there's a window. So what I did here is when you close the door, you immediately have this little pocket of air. So I put some foam treatment on the door, so anything that goes into that pocket gets absorbed completely. Then I have a bookshelf off to the side that's on this blank wall here, and any sort of wood that you have is going to bounce walls off. So what you do is you can just take like a bed sheet or something and just cover that up.
So you specifically picked this room when you had this house, like this is going to be the studio. So you just didn't pick a random room, right? And you kind of tested it out like, okay, this should work for all my space and conveniences, right? So I think that's a good scouting out the room you want to pick and knowing where everything's going to go. You don't want to put a foam paneling and go, I don't have room for my vocal booth now, right? Mm-hmm. That's going to be serious trouble. Okay, so what would you say is tip number 2 when you built this home studio? So
tip number 2 is going to be the actual treatment itself. So if you look at the floor here, which the camera can't see.
I'm going to put up some photos of his studio so you'll be able to see what he's talking about.
Perfect. Yeah. So the wood, it's completely wood tile floor. So what do we know about wood? It reverberates everything. And when I came into this room and it was completely empty after I moved in, I did clap and it reverberated for at least a second. Not good. So I got this nice thick shag carpet rug on the ground. And then after that, I covered up the windows with some thick window covers. And then on the corners here, we just have some nice thick acoustic foam bass traps. And then we have some acoustic foam treating behind the monitors as well as the screen.
And not only that, you did this in a really cost-efficient way.
Yes,
you kind of walk me through, like, how much was all the foam treatment, do you think?
I think after all of it was said and done, if you count the foam treatment that's in the vocal booth, which was going to be 90% of it, it's probably somewhere around $100 to $200.
That's like nothing, guys, right? So you can easily treat your room, and he figured out a really good way to do it. It does surprise me. I've been in tight rooms, bedrooms, and when you clap, like, the noise is insane. You can never produce music in it. But he's just put up really practical foam treatment, and it's freaking dead in here, guys. And when you get in the vocal booth, it's ultra dead. So it's very, very easy to create a nice dead space for tracking. How important is that when tracking that you don't have all this reverb and echo?
It is absolutely important. So think of it this way. If you are producing music in a room that is not treated, that is basically the equivalent of driving a car blindfolded. So you are not getting an accurate representation of the work that you have in front of you.
Yeah, that's a great point, because if you can't trust what you're hearing, unless you're not mixing your stuff and you're completely farmed out, but even if you're tracking things and you're getting sounds and that stuff sounds weird, you're going to be in a bit of a tight situation. So he was able to do that. Let's get to tip number 3. Talk a little bit about your vocal booth construction. How much did that cost? And what went into that one?
Yeah, so if you go on Amazon and you try to find a decent vocal booth, it's going to run you upwards of $500. The vocal booth that I built was only about $250. And how I did that was on Amazon, I got some moving blankets, I got some PVC pipe connectors, and then I went to Home Depot for the PVC pipe. It's just completely PVC pipe frame. And then I went to Hobby Lobby and got a couple of cardboards just to have panels so that the acoustic could have a place to sit. Then for the lighting on the inside, I just got an LED strip that runs around the top of it. That's powered by a remote that you can actually control how bright the light is, what color of the light is. Super easy in there. Then on the inside of it, I got a nice little cooling fan that just kind of sits in one of the corners, because if you sit in this room, you know it's hot. Yeah. It gets even hotter in there. Yeah. So in between takes, if you need to have a little extra AC, you just turn on that little fan. When you're ready to track, you turn it back off and you're good to go.
Yeah, we just tracked vocals on SM7B in his vocal booth, and it sounds so pristine and clear. Now, I'm someone who's worked in a home studio where I always track vocals in a less than ideal environment. It's just what I've got. And I've learned to deal with it, but then now that I've gone to this, it's going to be tough for me to go back after hearing that, because it's such a good sound. It really was. So I think the tip that really, I mean, how much did all this stuff really cost? You know, discounting the instruments, of course, and speakers, which are kind of not considered the DIY aspect. You just kind of rolled up your sleeves and spent what, $500, and you've got a complete home studio. I mean, maybe not even including the desk, which is a couple $100, right?
Yep.
It doesn't cost that much, guys. You put in $1,000. Yeah, monitors cost a little bit. You don't need things this big. I think if you're in a home studio, he's tracking big stuff. He wants big monitors. I think that totally works. But it's like $1,000 and you've got a home studio set up, right?
Mm-hmm.
That works for you. So those are some 3 great tips. Do you have any bonus tips or little tricks that you learned putting together the studio?
Yeah, so some bonus tips that I would have is when you are building your music studio, if you're building it on a budget, you need to figure out what it is that is expensive that you absolutely will need to get. So for example, if you're going to be building something and your DAW is probably going to be Logic, then you need to have a MacBook. And even the low-end MacBooks are going to be a little bit expensive, which is fine. Next thing is you need a really good audio interface. So the one that I have is a Apollo Solo, which is a little more expensive than you need. I know you can run with the Scarlett 2i2 and it'll work just fine. But if you're going to be recording vocals or if you're going to be recording guitar, you need to have a Shure SM7B. So it's a little bit expensive. It's about $400, but honestly, it is a very, very good either entry level or advanced level microphone.
Very specifically for like heavier styles of music too.
Yes.
I think the Shure SM7B is like a must if you're tracking anything hard rock, metal,
Yep.
Metalcore genres, because it can handle screams,
Mm-hmm.
it can handle the plosives and the amount of air that comes out. If you track acoustic folk rock or something, okay, some cheaper condensers can work. I use cheap condensers, but like I said, I just tracked on that SM7B and it made me realize I might be missing out a little bit. So that's a great bonus tip there for sure. So that's how he constructed his home studio. The Apollo, I have a Scarlett 2i2, but the Apollo interface seems to be working really well for you. How much does that run?
The Apollo Solo, I think when I got it, it might have been on sale, but it was about $400.
Yeah, that's not bad. I think the 2i2 is $300.
Yep.
So how many inputs does it have? I'm actually curious about
So
that.
it has a headphone jack, it has a line guitar output, it has 2 speaker jacks on the back, and then it has 2 XLR ports that also have 1/4-inch ports built into them.
Yeah, so that's 3 inputs. That's more than the 2i2, I believe, right there. So you're kind of getting your bang for your buck for sure. So the tip was kind of prioritize what you need to spend your money on first. Absolutely. Because like Logic, what was it, $200
Yep.
last time I checked. $200, interface is $400, right? The mic is $400. Monitors are not too bad. These are a really big pair of Aries. I have the Aries 3.5s. I don't know.
These are 8s.
Yeah, these are the 8s, right? These got a lot more power if you're trying to produce things like that. I'm in a small space. I'm not going to turn up my speakers too loud because that brings more of the room in there. But he turned up his speakers really loud and I didn't feel the echo. I didn't feel the reverberance. So as long as you're strategic about where you put your acoustic treatment and you roll up your sleeves a little bit and get it done, you can have a great home studio space. So thank you, Colton. I have all of Colton's links in the description down below. You can check out his band. You can check out his work if you'd like to know more about that. Anyways, thank you so much for watching and we will see you guys next time.
See you later.